You're still watching the AM News. Time now for the news review, where we get into the newspapers and stories making the headlines and see how it resonates with us, citizens and leaders. My guest this morning is member of NPP communications team, Kyei-Gyasi. Good morning, Mr. Gyasi. If you can hear me, it's a pleasure to have you on the AM show this morning.
Good morning, sweetie. Thank you for having me once again here. It's always also a pleasure to be on this show. And a very good morning to your cherished viewers and then your crew as well.
Right.
How is it going?
So far so good. I mean, yesterday we've seen that our parliamentarians have passed the anti-LGBTQ bill. I don't know what you think about that, but quickly, in a few minutes, tell me what's occupying most space in your mind this morning on the issues going on in the country.
Thank you very much once again. So I am being preoccupied by the progressive, State of the Nation address by the President of the Republic of Ghana. Interestingly, the President gave an address to the nation, which in a way differs from what we have been used to in terms of having the President in the past narrating and lamenting on the various, progress of project programs and policies, and always assuring the Ghanaian populace of some of these project programs and policies being in the pipeline or maturing in the near future. Unlike that, you could see that this time around, the President was able to give Ghanaians an array of programs, policies, and projects that have matured. And he moved on to juxtapose the impact of these project programs and policies to the good people of this country. And that was very refreshing, very, very encouraging, because if you could see, the President highlighted a lot of policies and programs that have come to the fore and are benefiting the people. One significant one, and it was very good that the President opened his speech with that, was security. Protection of the territorial integrity of the state is very, very, very key as people, especially looking at recent geopolitical activities around the four corners of the country, where we have all the countries around the Sahara Belt being, occupied by military government. And we see the insurgencies of terrorist groups, nearing our borders, and having, conflict in Boko area becomes a problem and a cause for worry. So it was very important for us to hear the executive activities, programs, and policies towards ensuring peace at these conflict areas and making sure that we do not become victims of these terrorist groups and then militant activities happening around the borders of the country. The NCA intervention of controlling or censoring media houses within this catchment area, making sure that hate speeches are controlled, engaging the government effort of engaging various traditional leaders to bring in lasting solution to these conflicts are all significant strides that the government has made with respect to security. The government moved on to speak about sports. And sweetie, you know that there are three key things that drive the passion of this country. When we talk about sports, we talk about politics, we talk about religion. And it was good that the government was able to highlight the various infrastructural development that have been committed to developing and promoting sporting activities in the country. Talk of the 150 AstroTurfs vis-a-vis the 3 in 2017. Talk about the refurbishment of all, sports stadia across the country, the newly built ones and all that. The government also highlighted through the President's speech issues concerning education. And you can, see the massive infrastructural development and contribution to developing education in this country, especially at the secondary and the tertiary level, with GET Fund really supporting over 2,200 projects across the country. That was very, refreshing. So as infrastructure, so as roads, digitalization, agriculture, health, and the government was able to highlight the impact of all these projects and programs on the Ghanaian economy and the living standard of the people. So I've been thinking about it, and the conversation is still ongoing. So that has been my preoccupation. Aside that, yesterday was also another historic day in the life of Parliament of this country. And I think going forward, we'll talk about that too.
Yes. But before we get into the papers, of course, the headlines is chronicling this anti-LGBTQ bill that's been passed in Parliament. But you mentioned the security issue, and I just wanted to chip in and say that in as much as the threats we are facing in terms of boundary or the conflicts trickling in from the Sahel into the coastal areas is real, I think that if the people, the citizens, or particularly the youth are not comfortable or are not living a life that they can thrive in whatever industry they find themselves in, it becomes easy for them to be convinced to pick up arms and fight for a cause, whatever that may be. So in as much as we are trying to, caution the citizens to be careful or to be security conscious, the work that needs to be done for us to actually achieve that is to ensure that the youth are gainfully employed or they are, thriving in whatever industry that they find themselves in, that the youth are okay, so that nobody, they would prefer to continue in whatever industry they're applying rather than pick up arms for a cause. I just wanted to put that out there. But let's get into the newspapers, starting from the Daily Guide newspaper. And the front page says, anti-gay bill passed, 3 years jail term. Of course, yesterday we saw Parliament, led by the Speaker, Alban Bagbin, unanimously passing the bill, which will be presented to the President to assent his signature. But do you think that we will see that day come when the President actually signs this bill into a law? What do you think?
All right. So I think it was forthcoming. It was expected that this day will come where Parliament will reflect on the general aspiration and position of the Ghanaian community with respect to the passage of the LGBT bill into act, the anti-LGBT bill. Now that hurdle has been crossed, but what is left for us is the President signing or assenting to this bill.
Will it happen?
I can assure you. Yes. You see, the President, and I think we must be able to appreciate where he stands. The President stated clearly in the Eastern region before the clergy of Anglican that he, as a president, will not, and take my words, will not ensure that anything that will preserve our culture, anything that will promote our culture, our family, practice, will not be affected, especially in the light of LGBTQ. He will not condone it. His government will not tolerate anything that seeks to project or promote LGBTQ. And for that matter, he's ready to support every single move that will help the country to preserve its culture, values, and tradition. And the passage of this bill and being assented to and being enforced as a bill or as an act or a law is one of the critical ways of ensuring that the values and the culture and aspirations of the people are preserved, as stated in the words of the President. So now that the bill has been passed by Parliament, awaiting presidential or executive assent, I am very confident that the President will do the needful. However, we are in a democratic dispensation, sweetie, and I think every meaningful Ghanaian who is listening to us appreciates that in times of this, we should allow people to talk, advocacy. So remember, the initial position of the President was that let's engage as people, because we are moving a step ahead as people in contemporary times. We are very aware and conscious of the impact of passing such bills, globally. So as people, we must engage ourselves, understand the intricacies of the steps that we are taking, understand the various stakeholders, how it impacts on our democratic values, freedom of speech, freedom of expression, especially even in the case where there is an iota or element of censorship of the media with respect to the promotion of LGBTQ activities, then it becomes very important as people to engage. So the president, wanting to preserve our values, will also want the people to have a holistic engagement. That is why I think we've seen a number of groups even springing up before and during the passage of this bill, also airing their minority views. And I think it is very important. However, the president understands that Parliament is the representation of the people.
Right.
And yesterday's passage of the bill was a unanimous one. Therefore, if in his own wisdom, he thinks that the time is now for we to put this bill into a law, he will do that. There are some few things that we need to really look at. Personally, as a student of law and a student of family values, I believe that we should look at some critical issues of, this whole LGBT thing being seen as behavioral, and then the issue of censorship of the media vis-a-vis the independence of the media to broadcast, and the media practitioners and media institutions under this bill are advised not to promote. So there's an idea of an attempt to censor the media, which in a way affects media independence. We should be able to streamline that. My issue also has to do with advocacy. Democracy is all about advocacy. The general understanding and impression of the people is that in Ghana, issues of LGBTQ are alien to the values and cultural practices and the proper family activities of this country. And that is true. And generally, everybody feels that we are not ready for accepting such, practice among us. That is very fair. However, we must build a society where the voice of the minority is always heard. So if we see a bill that seeks to, frown on anything advocacy about issues of LGBTQ, then it becomes a bit problematic. Right. That is my issue. However, Parliament passing this bill was very expected, forthcoming. They have really reflected the position of the general Ghanaian people of this country.
Right. I like that you said it is alien to us, but we've known that these people, that this group of people have existed among us for centuries. And so perhaps the provision should criminalize the promotion alone and not the practice, because again, you said that the minorities' rights must be protected, regardless of everything, regardless of the sexual orientation. These people are still human beings and they have rights, which is why we saw rights groups and civil society organizations trying to stop the passage of this bill. The provision is saying that up to 6 to 10 years of imprisonment for anyone who produces, procures, or distributes material deemed to promote LGBTQ plus activities. How significant is that? Is that a bit much, do you think? 6 to 10 years? Because you choose to align a certain way sexually.
All right, so let me deal with the first part of your question.
Right.
Yes, it's a very key observation. The issue of LGBTQ and this whole bill borders on law and morality. It is very key that we underscore the point that every law has an iota of morality. So law and morality are intertwined. They move together. It is also very key to appreciate the fact that the tendencies of LGBTQ have lived with us time immemorial, like you've rightly said. We know the Kujubesiers, the tomboys and the tomgirls, they are natural phenomena that live with us among our societies, but they are not normal. You see, that is one distinction that we should be able to establish, that we have our family members, our brothers and sisters, who have these tendencies. we must be able to accept them, live with them peacefully. Now, the issue of this anti-LGBTQ bill is more geared towards the expression publicly, of these tendencies, which even with initial and, the first scientific research were being indicated to be abnormal tendencies of human beings. So the law also practically does not have any issue or business with what happened in somebody's private life or what happens in somebody's home. That is not the business of the law. The law takes care of activities in public, outside, that affect your neighbor or any other person's right, or that have issues with public health, that have issues with public morality. You see, that is the focus of the law. So it is not really to say that we do not know them. We know our brothers and sisters. We know those who have generally and genuinely these tendencies, not really engaging in activities of LGBTQ. But when you want to move out to express yourself, which is an alien to the culture of the Ghanaian people, then there is a problem.
Right.
And that is where the law comes in, to control how we identify ourselves, how we project ourselves and interests and our tendencies in the public. If we do not cater some of these things, then a day may come, sweetie, where somebody will say that my tendency is for me to work with, say, 5 women and always, show publicly my affection to these 5 women. And then they may come out to say that that is their right, and for that matter, we should accept it. So every right has a responsibility. Right. When you look at our constitution, your right must hit the limit of public health, public safety, public morality. And where these rights are seen to be affecting these key, tenets of the society, then it may be curtailed. So it is more to do with the expression, the promotion. Talk about the punishment. The custodial punishment of 3 to 5 years, 5 years to 10 years, and all that, some, as you've rightly stated, see that as a bit harsh. But when you look at other countries, in Africa now, about 54 countries, we have almost about 34 of them passing this bill. 21 of them have this custodial, punishment or committal punishment for the offense of LGBTQ. Even in Nigeria, they look at about 9 to 15 to 20 years of custodial sentences.
Right. Okay.
Yes,
Mr. Gyasi, I understand you, but we have to move on to other stories. We don't have a lot of time for the news review, right? Now, there's a story here on page 3 of the Daily Guide newspaper that the police service transformation is worth emulating. Remember, in President Akufo-Addo's State of the Nation's address, he commended the police, the police service and the face uplift that they've been doing. Quote, the changing face of the police is perhaps best exemplified by the dramatic facelift they've given the frontage of the police headquarters on the Ring Road in Accra. It is beautiful, and I recommend to all institutions and indeed households. That is according to the president. Do you think that the uplift, the face uplift, the facility refurbishment or revamp in any way augurs well for the actual duties of the police service, as we have seen as the situation on ground? What do you think about this?
So the police service wields a very key authority in ensuring law and orderliness in the country. So its appearance, its posture is as good as its professionalism. It is always important that we see state institutions having a certain character. And before the advent of this new leadership, especially in the past, before the 2000s, we used to have this whole perception about the police service, the police force being, not being lucrative enough, not being professional enough, and then people who work tirelessly under this service were deemed not to be professional. But over time, we've come to accept how diligent how hardworking the police service is. And if now it is coming with, facelift with their edifice, the headquarters, I think it is in the right direction, because assuming a visitor or a tourist, comes through Ghana, passes through one of our key areas or routes in Ghana, the Ring Road, and then we point out that this is the police service of the Republic of Ghana. It is very edifying. The facelift of the headquarters of the police service. But how does that translate
into the discharge of their duties? I mean, it's a good thing they've done, right? The facelift is beautiful. When you drive past there, you see the police service, and you think Ghana is getting there in terms of infrastructure globally. We are getting there. But how does this in any way, reflect in the discharge of their duties, the Ghana Police Service?
Sweetie, which is commendable. It is very clear that there is distinction between your outlook and then your output as your productivity. Yeah. Obviously, you cannot say that because you look good, meaning that you are doing good. No. However, the police even started looking good and doing good for some time now, especially with the police visibility. Good. Yes, they are doing well in terms of productivity, in terms of professionalism, how they work on intelligence, how they clamp down on, crime. I believe now the crime rates, especially in our major cities, have been managed or been reduced, where we have police visibility everywhere. And that is also to say that the government has been able to support the police massively with most of the logistics that they need to really work well. That should be our focus. You see, where we have these bicycles, where police move everywhere, every corner, every time. Their mobility is very key. We have, helicopters being procured for them. We have these body cameras being given to them to ensure professionalism. We have these CCTV cameras across the country where they can pick on information. The police is doing well.
I don't know if you've noticed, Mr. Gyasi, that there's some sort of culture of silence in the police service these days. You don't get access to, you don't have information as much as, I was doing a story recently on, immigration, and then I went to the Nima police station just for facts and figures on the number of people that come in every day to request police clearance. That's, certificates that clears you of criminal records for the host country to accept you. And from what I saw, about 300, 400 people come there every day for police clearance. Obviously, not all of them wanted to travel, but I was just looking for some figures to substantiate my claim. And I went, go here, go. Nobody was ready to tell me the information. I was redirected all the way to the CID headquarters. I went in there, and then finally I was asked to write a letter to Dampare himself for just to give me a head count. How many people come in on a daily basis? And the officials will tell you that they cannot speak. What do you think about that? If they're doing so good, if everything is working all right, if the police service has nothing to hide, why are they so hush-hush about simple things? I'm just curious to know what you think about that.
Yes. So I think that is a right observation, and it's quite frustrating when one has to go through a whole lot of procedures before simple information for public interest like this, is being collected. And that is a problem. But it is also important that we understand that the police service is very bureaucratic. Bureaucratic in the nature because of the work that they do. So information will not be readily available, not that they do not exist, but giving it out to the public may have to go through some processes. I normally deal with the police on daily basis, and I face some of these issues, but
what if the officials are just afraid of certain sanctions, from the IGP? What if they're just afraid of him, afraid of what he might do to them?
He is the IGP. He is the final authority at the police service.
And yes, he should be revered, but should he be feared?
No, that is not his interest. That is not what his work demands. He must be respected. He must be, as you said, revered, but not to be feared. And I don't, maybe with the parliamentary, inquiry into the issue of this claim of masterminding each other at the leadership level, gave credence to the fact that there is some kind of, fear among the lower rank police officers with respect to how they deal with management and leadership of the police service. But be that as it may, Sweetie, I believe that once it is a security institution, there are authorities. The police deals with command. So we have the IGP at the national level command, we have the regional command, we have the district and all that. So if a command must come from the top and we have to wait before it comes, that is right. But the issue of he being feared, I beg to differ. However, he has been able, as an IGP, Dr. Dampare, he has been able to create an aura, a personality for himself, which is good, which is very, very good. But if there is any iota of fear of officers working independently and professionally without recourse to him, then it is a problem. I do not have the facts available to me to suggest so. But for him to be respected as the final authority, for key information and activities of the police office or service to be done according to the command of higher, authorities, for me, is the best way and the best practice among the security agencies.
All right, let me just quickly do some headlines in here, and then we move on to the new finder. It says Supreme Court throws out we don't have enough time to get into the details of all the stories. National Infection Prevention Control Strategy launched. Unwholesome vegetable oil shops shut down. Stakeholders call for TB support for TB Joshua. And Mahama donates 5,000 to KK Kabobo. Right. So these, and then IMF measures bitter but temporary. That's a story by Akufo-Addo from the Parliament House. These are all headlines in the Daily Guide newspaper. Let's move on now to the new finder. Again, Akufo-Addo cautions country at the front page of the newspaper. Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia charges campaign manifesto committees to execute duties with united front. Dr. Chambers applauds Akufo-Addo's SONA. Oh, even Chambers applauds Akufo-Addo's penultimate State of the Nation's address. But let's do the story on the NIC launches customer complaint systems. It says the insuring public can now lodge complaints online and be sure to receive speedy resolution. The National Insurance Commission has launched an automated complaint and management system to better serve and respond to the queries of customers. Acting Commissioner of the Insurance, Mr. Michael Kofi-Ando, was unhappy with the stress customers are put through when they have one challenge or the other, which gives insurers a bad time. What do you think about this? A system where customers can launch their complaints for the NIC, Dr. Gyasi?
Digitally, right?
Digitally, yes.
Yes.
Looks like the digital agenda is
it's on course.
Right.
So clearly this new development of the insurance sector feeds into the general output of digitalization in this country. It is not only about state institutions going about their daily activities, but it is more to do with how responsive they are to the plight of the ordinary Ghanaian. And where digitalization is leveraged to make state institutions very responsive, then it becomes very refreshing. In fact, that is the new level of where the world is gearing towards.
Right.
Some countries have even advanced more, and it is good that Ghana is advancing. And we are making more, value for service from the use of digitalization. Now, the electricity company of Ghana is very responsive and very productive because of digitalization. We have the police service also very responsive, with even the advent of their TV station and then also online portals to get access to information. Their presence on social media is very fundamental and refreshing. So many of our institutions, the passport office and all that, have become very responsive to the plight of Ghanaians because of digitalization. That is why we should allow digitalization to prevail moving forward as a country in the near future.
Unfortunately, that's all the time we have, but I still want to do some headlines quickly before we wrap this up. Child Rights International case on streetism dismissed by Supreme Court. Dr. Bawumia charges campaign manifesto committees. We've done that. Ghana must not give up on fight against violent extremism. That's a story on page 4 of the newspaper. And banks urged to prominently display AC direct credit services on digital channels. And including persons with disability in development is essential. Of course, we need to consider everybody in this country when we are taking decisions. Right, so that's how we're wrapping up for the newspaper review. My guest, Mr. Kyei-Gyasi, who's a member of the NPP communications team. It was my pleasure chatting with you this morning. Thank you so much.